She put the cow tongue in the mason jar with the 2 pictures and a little bit of my menstrual blood. Today, we are going to be talking about Gypsy Rose. Yes. What does she have to do with Witchy Wednesdays? Well, get this. Her mom, Dee Dee or Claudina, did voodoo on her. Stick around. Marry me, my witches and Wiccan. Welcome to Worldwide Witchy Wednesdays. I am your host, Moon Witch. Where every Wednesdays I talk about anything that has to do with the witchery, witches or witchcraft, and sometimes paranormal. With that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Now, before I get into the topic, so originally I was going to be talking about the situation in Britain or England. There was a case of child sacrifices, and this had to do with the witchcraft. Wait, does that mean witchcraft is evil? Bitch, are you demented? Somebody call 911. Somebody call 911 on her, because that girl, no. And they were basically like the occult with, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to say it, but I was like, no, I don't think the world was ready for that, because that was just so effed up. And the fact that it happened during COVID, okay, let me speak about this real quick. So when I was doing that research, I was like, you know what, this is a perfect story for it, but then I stopped because it's going to get into conspiracy, and I'm not a conspiracist, and I'm not going to get into that. But it was said the reason why COVID happened was because to cover that up. Go ahead and type in England England, child witchcraft sacrifice occult thingy. Like I said, I'm not going to get into it, but if you look at it, it's going to be like, well, that's the reason why COVID was shut down, because they were trying to hide that like a distraction. Anyways, the video's not about this. Let's just cut that short and let's get to the real topic. Gypsy Rose's mother, Dee Dee, did voodoo on her. In this segment, there's going to be 3 parts. It's going to be one about Gypsy Rose and her mother. She said that Dee Dee cursed her by using cow's tongue, menstrual blood, and voodoo. So I wanted to know more about that. And then second, I wanted to know, what does cow tongue do in voodoo magic or voodoo practices? And the difference between hoodoo and voodoo, because I don't know anything about that, and I really was like, ooh. So I might as well just add 3 into 1. And then also, does that count if I talk about the TikTok video? Is that a 4th segment or 4 topics in this video? Anyways, I'm rambling. One of me reading the article that said how the situation happened. The reason why I wanted to talk about the story was because I saw it on Gypsy Rose Confession Prison, and she mentioned it, and I said, what does Dee Dee know about voodoo? And girl, we're here. So there's going to be that one with the article. And I can't find the original video because I was watching Lifetime, and it only gives me like 2 chances to watch it, and then it charges you or make you sign up. And I said no. But I will put the link. Maybe you get lucky. Second part was going to be from a witch of TikTok who also brought this thing up. So check the timestamp for that. So on the New York Post, it was said her mother put a voodoo hex on her, she said. Gypsy recalled that she first started to feel rebel against Dee Dee when she met a man named Dan at a sci-fi pop culture convention in 2011. Soon, she tried running away from home to be with him, but Dee Dee caught her. Her mother chained Gypsy to bed for 2 weeks as a punishment and also put a voodoo hex on her, she alleged. She printed out a picture of Dan, and she printed out a picture of me, and she went to the store and got a mason jar and a cow tongue, Gypsy said. She put the cow tongue in the mason jar with 2 pictures and a little bit of my menstrual blood. She buried it in the backyard and said, you will never find love. You will never be happy. So I think that it's true. I just think it's true because every time I get close to someone, they leave me. Girl, I think it's because of who you are. Well, let's watch the clip and let me know what you think, okay? Put a voodoo hex on me. She printed out a picture of Dan, and she printed out a picture of me, and she went to the store and got a mason jar and a cow tongue. She put the cow tongue in the mason jar with the 2 pictures and a little bit of my menstrual blood. Put it in a mason jar, buried it in the backyard, and said that you will never find
such a young girl. I had so much to learn about relationships. And he left me. And it broke my heart. And so it's like I always bring it back to that curse where I'm like, I believe it's true. She never wanted me to find love or be happy. And I just kind of feel like that's stuck.
I just want to know, is the jar still in the backyard? Obviously, she's with her husband now, Ryan, and they have a baby or pregnant. She's pregnant. I don't know if you know about the announcement, but she's pregnant because he brought up about saying the clothes, like, hey, we're shopping for clothes, and I just want to know, is the jar still there? Because obviously it seems like her love life is doing just fine, and the fact that she married Ted in 2019, I was like, she was engaged. Where did she meet all these guys? Pal, what is it called? Pen pal? I don't know. That is crazy. It just sounds like she made that up. Whether it was true or not, because it's something Dee Dee would do. I don't know. But it sounds like she made it up. If it was true, okay, if it was true, then she probably found the jar and she destroyed it. Somebody call 911. Call the cops. Because this is not making any sense. I want to. Let's get to the TikTok video of Manbo Zena talk about the voodoo things. Maybe she knows about it because I don't.
You know, I've been thinking about this and letting it marinate, but you definitely have a point. Now, I'm not saying that she didn't go through something completely horrible, but I do not think that she is completely innocent. If you haven't noticed by now, people are starting not to like
What
Gypsy
is that on her
at all.
neck?
In fact,
Is
her
that a
mask is
pentagram?
coming off and she's getting revealed. They're starting to see her for who she really is. She says her mom taught her to be a great liar and to manipulate. She learned from the best.
Well, can't bring me down. I'm on a high right now. I'm living my best life, and y'all can't take that from me. And the D
Girl.
is
Fire!
Just ignore my face. But
Girl, you look pretty.
when you go into detail, she explained what her mom did with that voodoo jar. Every detail, every step. She got a cow tongue, she printed out pictures, she got my period blood. So it makes me wonder, did your mom do it or did you?
Correct.
And now we're getting word that she wants to work with Kim Kardashian. She wants to meet Taylor Swift. She's getting all this glamour. People are treating her like she is a straight celebrity. They cannot stop talking about her, good or bad. Still talking about her mom and the situation that happened. And this brings you back to the cow tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Cow tongues are used to keep people's mouths shut
Mm-hmm.
or to keep it open. And it's definitely open for her. So, did your mom do that voodoo spell? Or were we just manipulated into thinking your mom did it and you did it? It is reaping season. And from what I can see, the spirits are not done yet. Something is about to happen. I'm just waiting for the shade room to post it. When her man arrived to her house to basically grill her mom, she knew exactly what to do. She told him to put on gloves. She had the gloves ready. Like, she's the reason why there weren't any fingerprints in the house. She's a lot smarter than many of you think. So I'm just gonna let this marinate and we're gonna see. All of my opinions.
Gotta see it through, my boy. Do you think she did it herself? Do you think she actually knew that this was going to happen, so she decided to do voodoo and create this kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like future for herself? I don't know if you guys know, but the Kardashians are known to be witches and they are like male, they take away male's energy to bring them vibrant and life to give them. No, no, you guys, this sounds very, it's very believable. I don't know nothing about voodoo, but girl, let me know. Let me go get a cow tongue. I'll be back. As I'm doing this research about the cow tongue, I realized something. Gypsy had a laptop or a computer, and maybe she did the research like how I'm doing the research now, because I typed in voodoo with cow tongue, and in witchcraft, not me, because I don't do anything that has to do with animals. Like I will never hurt an animal, but I'm saying like with the cow tongue wise, I to silence somebody, I wouldn't silence like threefold law. Cut it short. But I think Gypsy really did do research and found, because I found this and I'm just like, what the heck? I typed in, how can a cow's tongue be used in voodoo? And then I found on Quora and it's about witchcraft instead. So I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling and I saw this answer. Put the little picture here. It says, how can a cow's tongue be used in witchcraft? Witchcraft, or any path that uses magic, employs the language of symbolism. An object won't represent a thing or a concept. The movie starring Keanu Reeves, Debater, features a section when a voodoo priest does a spell to silence someone by driving a nail through the cow's tongue that had the DA's name there on an item of it. The DA was unable to dismiss. Now, to an age witch, the tongue represents speak communication. The act of removing it from the bearer is the act of force to remove the ability from identified recipient. It binds the receiver of the chant or the act of the chant. To destroy the tongue would command force to permanently disable the recipient. So if it was buried, it's to keep the name of Gypsy, because her menstrual blood, to be well spoken, to be always talked about, because the tongue will keep going. But if it was destroyed, then the spell would be over. Call the cops. We need them to go find the jar so they can destroy it. So all this gypsy hype is like done. Over. Finito. Voodoo versus hoodoo. What's the difference? Voodoo, spelled voodoo or voodoo, originated from the traditional African religion of the Fon and Ewe people in what is now Benin and Ghana. Enslaved Africans brought voodoo to Americas, especially to Haiti, where it evolved and mixed with other religious traditions like Catholicism into what is now known as Haitian voodoo. Hoodoo, on the other hand, has origin in the United States, primarily among African American communities in the southern U.S. Its roots stem from a combination of West African folk tradition. While the words voodoo and hoodoo are sometimes used interchangeably due to misunderstandings or misinformation, they refer distinctly different traditions with different origin and practice. Many people, both persuasions, believe that hoodoo was the original religion, with hoodoo becoming a domination in much the same way as the Methodist, Unitarian, Baptist became denomination of protest Christianity. Maybe I'm not that smart, but I still don't understand. Basically, a long, short story. Hoodoo is the practice, and voodoo is the religion, right? Because like I said, I'm not that smart, and I'm trying to comprehend the words, but it's not telling me. But from what I'm reading, hoodoo is just like magic. Purposes such as healing, protection, and divination, and then voodoo is the religion, a spiritual force among slaves to help them during the suffering. Drop down a comment, please. I'm so confused. I don't know nothing about voodoo. I really don't. I don't want you guys to be mad at me, because not that I'm not saying I did my research. As you can see, I'm doing my research, but I'm just like, what is voodoo and what is voodoo? You know what? I'm just going to look for a voodoo video and we're going to watch it, okay?
Let's talk about hoodoo and voodoo. There are a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people believe that hoodoo and voodoo are the same thing. There's a lot of misleading information, especially on the internet, about the difference between the two. Living here in New Orleans, you see voodoo posted on everything, you see hoodoo posted on everything, so I understand why people can sometimes use them interchangeably, but I assure you that hoodoo is different than voodoo. We're going to talk about what hoodoo is, what voodoo is, and the difference between the two. A little disclaimer before we get into it, I am not an initiate of voodoo. I have a lot of experience around it, but I am not an initiate, so all you initiates, calm down. We're not going to be talking about that from your perspective. We're going to be talking about it from the hoodoo perspective. Hoodoo is an ancestrally based practice. It's a result of the transatlantic slave trade. It is African American folk magic. When you are in an African American house that has hoodoo or root work in their bloodline, you're not going to hear the words conjure or root work or hoodoo. At least in my family, I never heard those words, even though I do have it in my bloodline. The reason why is because it's so ingrained in the culture. It's not different from their spiritual practice. I grew up in the Baptist Christian household like many African Americans did, like many root workers and hoodoo practitioners have, and my grandmother carried her Bible and she had her tricks. And before we went to church, she would sit us down at the dining room table and talk about herbs and roots so that we had an understanding that these things had power. And it's not like she separated it and said, now we're going to have a class about hoodoo. That's not what happened. She told us this is where the power is and this is how you can capitalize on that power. You have to understand that hoodoo came from a culture of survival. The people who were stolen from their country, stolen from their homes and brought over here, held tightly on to their spiritual practice. That was the only thing that they owned. And so it was very special to them. They had to keep it secret. Hoodoo is not something that was widely shared, and to this day, there's a lot of information that's kept hidden. A lot of the ways I practice that a lot of hoodoo practitioners practice is secret. You drop things in secret locations. You work at night so no one sees that you're working. You could be working right in front of someone's face, and you have to be able to keep that from them. You don't want people stealing your power by seeing it. Hoodoo relies a lot on our ancestors. It's a powerful practice because we remember those who've come before us, those who were the trailblazers, those who are the foundation on which we stand, the blood, sweat, and the tears that were sacrificed for our very existence. That's what hoodoo truly is, and that's where the power truly comes from. Your relationship with your living relatives and your relationship with your ancestors keeps your back straight and keeps you strong like they were strong to survive. That power comes through us and into the work. And when I say us, I do mean African Americans because it is a result of the transatlantic slave trade. So now we're going to talk a little bit about voodoo. You're going to see voodoo everywhere, just a quick Google search, and you're going to see the word voodoo. You're going to see it spelled a few different ways, and the spelling of voodoo can give you some insight into what type of voodoo they're talking about.
I like
Here
him.
in New Orleans, there's New Orleans voodoo. There is the popular mass consumption voodoo, which is spelled VOODOO, and even in old documents, people who were observing it from the outside would use voodoo to explain it. So from very early on, these two words were used interchangeably. But when the word voodoo is spelled VODOU, it's talking about a religion. It's talking about a whole religious practice which involves the Loa.
And now we know. And now we know the difference between hoodoo and voodoo. So, Gypsy Rose, since her mother cursed her, I think Gypsy was the one who did the research because of that.
Haitian voodoo, which is comes from Port-au-Prince. It comes from parts of Haiti, and it has a whole way of practicing it itself. But it is not hoodoo. Hoodoo does not use the Loa, even though in a lot of expressions of hoodoo, you'll see them mixing it with the Loa, you'll see them mixing it with Orisha, and that is not the original expression of hoodoo. through time, hoodoo has communicated with a lot of different cultures. It's communicated with indigenous people who were here. It's communicated with Native Americans and even Europeans. And along the way, it's taken little tricks. It's learned how to evolve and adapt to its environment, much like a culture that's trying to survive. On the other hand, voodoo is still very much practiced, especially here in New Orleans. There are voodoo fetes and parties, and it teaches veneration and honoring of the Loa. The hoodoo does not teach veneration of the Loa or the Orisha. It teaches veneration of your ancestors.
Side note, all topic. Well, not really. Do you remember the Black Lives Matter? There was a video that I saw of a African American, a voodoo priestess said that when they were pouring water bottle into the ground for the gentleman that had passed away because of the cops, the knee thing, they were saying that that's a way of them casting a spell by using water and calling in the names or saying the name out loud. Something about saying the name out loud. I specifically remember that part. But it's so crazy because they were saying basically to his ancestors, this is making sense.
Yes, there are saints that are venerated as well, but that ties back into the very Christian background of hoodoo. So it's still a part of it, although these other deities are not. When you are on a search for hoodoo, try to make the difference between hoodoo and voodoo. You want to really know what you're looking at. Voodoo is not hoodoo. If you see it spelled Voodoo, it might be a place that is using it interchangeably or using the popular understanding of it, and that's okay. Over time, it's just taken on a certain connotation, and we accept it. That some people are going to call it Voodoo, and because hoodoo is spelled very similar, Hoodoo. It makes sense, and so that's not something that I personally take offense about. But when you are a serious practitioner, you have to know the difference. Hoodoo is a result of the transatlantic slave trade, and voodoo is not. It is a practice that you can find here in the States, but I'm most familiar with Haitian voodoo, and in my time here in New Orleans, I've become familiar with New Orleans voodoo. But if you are on a journey to find voodoo, make sure that that is the direction that you're going in. If you are looking for hoodoo, make sure that is the direction you're going in. When you become serious about these practices, you definitely want to understand the history of both of them very clearly, what makes them different.
Oh, that is crazy. Now I know the difference between voodoo and hoodoo. And the fact that he mentioned Haitian voodoo, I was like, oh snap. So it's just more than one genre. Should I learn about voodoo? Should I start doing voodoo? It's not the way everyone thinks. I always thought like voodoo is more of like black magic and like, oh, I'm gonna curse you and blah blah like blah from American Horror Story. But it's not. It's a religious practice, and you're calling your powers from your ancestors. Basically, their suffering is the power behind the next generation for future hoodoo priestess and priestess. Who would have thought? That is amazing. Powers from the ancestors. Generations. I love Black people. And that is the story of Dee Dee Blanchard doing voodoo on her daughter Gypsy Rose Blanchard for her not to find love or to be cursed in love at all times. Well, thank you guys for watching. I've been wanting to do a voodoo video in a long time, but I don't know much about it. And now that I do know that I am enlightened to this, that path is actually not as what I thought it was going to be. So if you have any ideas or any videos that you want me to talk about next week, go ahead and drop down a comment. I would love to talk about it. Let me know what you think. Drop down a comment. I will leave everything in the description box below, so go ahead and check that out. With that being said, Be careful out there. Blessed be my witches Wiccan, and have a good day, good night, good morning, good evening. Bye, witches!